Alright, what's up everybody and welcome to another episode of Raudeza Plays. I'm Raudeza, and as you guys know, there's a whole lot of fuckery that happens with Xbox and trying to record your voice while you're doing your gameplay footage. I don't know, it's a privacy, whatever who gives a shit? I guess Microsoft is worried that they're gonna get sued for some reason. It's complete bullshit. It's not native to the Xbox, which is a real pain in the ass. So, I'm going to have to do it in this format, at least when I'm recording game footage on Xbox for the time being, because it's just too much of a pain in the ass, and honestly, I don't want to deal with it. You know, it is what it is, it's an unfortunate thing, but until I do the Twitch thing again, which unfortunately that has its drawbacks, because if the bitrate isn't high enough, the images start getting pixelated, and I can't stand that. I know that you guys can't stand that. I would rather go ahead and just do the voiceovers after the fact for my game captures, but it be in very high quality rather than it looking like shit and pixelated. So I'm not going to do that. I know that you guys don't like it. I certainly don't like it. I'm trying to project some modicum of professionalism here. I've talked about that before. Also, I'd like to start a segment, sort of, maybe, I don't know, moving forward, basically highlighting the dumbass of the week or the dipshit of the week that comes onto my social media and for whatever reason wants to comment with his nonsense. Now, you know, full disclosure, I think this is a bot. I don't think this is an actual person. If it is, it's very embarrassing, and you really need to change your profile or your whole aura, dude. So, I'd like to highlight this dipshit of the week, which is a guy named Mike Johnson or something like that. Hold on, let me get his actual name. So, this is our dipshit of the week. His actual name is Mike Smith, and obviously, he's only got one friend on Facebook, so this is obviously a bot. According to him, he thought I was a bot. Look at this handsome devil right here. He's wearing a goat hat. I mean, this is such a ridiculous profile, but whatever. Nevertheless, he does have it. Anyways, according to him, you guys know that I have an issue with the whole Sony and the disk drive. That's one of the reasons that I wanted to start this segment, particularly with this game. Now, according to Mike Smith and his infinite wisdom, and again, I'm quoting him, says the disk drive has nothing to do with anything. No one's going from Sony to Xbox, no matter what the people don't give up, whatever, he doesn't know how to write. He says, no matter what the people, don't give up their Sony exclusive, LOL. If you think that people are going to go to Xbox just because Xbox puts in a disk drive, you have no idea how things work, or you're just a bot, which is incredibly ironic. And the follow-up statement to this is Microsoft has already released a digital-only console, and it did amazingly well for Xbox. What motivation do they have to include a disk drive? Now they haven't said anything yet, and I could care less whether they do or don't use one of the most... Oh, whatever. He doesn't know how to... I'd have to clean this up. It says Xbox customers don't know if they want to put in a disk drive, and it doesn't affect me at all, but why would they? They're already proven that the consoles could do amazingly well without one. Okay, so this to me sounds like corporate bullshit, and we kind of already know that Xbox, Sony has been hiring these bots. You know, of course, that's unofficial, but, you know, you can kind of tell, and this is an example of it, have been hiring bots because their whole opinion or their, you know, basically philosophy on digital only is not very popular. This is not just a fad. So according to Mr. Smith, he's fanboying out, but this really sounds like corporate bullshit. So this is definitely a bot. So this is my dipshit of the week. You know, you have a nice one, Mr. Smith. You're completely full of crap. And yes, I'm not above it all if you're coming on my pages to talk some snap, especially if you don't know what the hell you're talking about and you don't really kind of understand the era that you're in. I will call you out. Listen, it's part of public domain. If you want to get your opinion out there, you have to be, just like I am, subject to criticism. And if you are willing to dish it out, I'm going to give it back to you. So it is what it is, guys. It's the interwebs. So while we're on the subject of the whole PS5, Xbox console wars, whatever you want to call it, it turns out that Halo Evolved Combat came out today, and basically what it is, it's coming out this week. I'm not exactly sure what the release date is, but reviews are or have been coming in regarding the new, Halo remake, I guess. I know that it was remade sort of in the Master Chief collection or something like that, but it has been remade again, and this version is actually on PS5 as well, if I understand that correctly. So this is a little bit of a weird dichotomy here. They started with Gears of War Reloaded, which I'm going to do also, but this is the original Halo. This is the Halo that started it all. So it's basically revisiting that first campaign or that first mission which I think is pretty interesting. Now, there have been criticisms of certain aspects of it, as I understand it from reading some of the reviews or watching some of the reviews online. I think certain things in terms of the overall, I guess, sound effects are a little bit different. The gameplay has, in terms of the quality of life, finally got that phrase right, the quality of life improvements, people are basically praising. I think one of the other comments are basically how the flood is being portrayed and how creepy it is. And I think for the first time in Halo history, this has gotten like an R rating, because you can like splat the flood, and when you shoot at them along with the Covenant soldiers, there are some how can I say this, meaty sort of effects. Like you basically knock one of the Covenants into the wall, and then they'll have the blood splatter or whatever plasma they have into the wall, which I think it's pretty bold. You know what I mean? Some people want to see that. I do think that you can toggle that so that it can look a little bit less rated R, if I understand that correctly. But overall, the reviews are positive. One reviewer, which I kind of like, I think his name is Maddie, he kind of mentioned that if you played the original Halo and then played the Master Chief Collection, that maybe played that one instead rather than this remaster, because there are differences that traditional Halo players will find a little bit strange and a little bit off and maybe a little bit off-putting. But if you are one of those who never played Halo and are playing this for the first time, especially on PS5, then definitely dig into this one, because I think it's a really good time. And, you know, if you hadn't, I'd say dig in now. Now is the perfect time to kind of, you know, especially if they were on, you know, a different platform that you didn't own, now's the time to jump into it. I think it would be very interesting for you if you hadn't played it before. It also really goes back to my central thesis, and one of the reasons that I started playing this version of Halo to begin with is you definitely want to preserve that physical media, because, you know, we don't really know what's going to happen in the future. And actually, one of the reasons that this guy, I don't know, Smith, got triggered in the first place is because of the comment that I had made earlier about how the possibility, I mean, and this is all really stupid existential nonsense, right? First world problems. Not that this really matters too much in the great scheme of things, but I was being hyperbolic. Obviously, there's always going to be a market for the Xbox and the PlayStation, although many people might be jumping ship because, and it's not because of the exclusivity of the titles, and it has nothing to do with, you know, how powerful the PlayStation is. It has to do with just standing up for your rights as a consumer, and that's the point that I was trying to make. I don't know why this guy got triggered, but what I am trying to say is that if, in fact, Project Helix does launch with a physical disc, then that does make a substantial amount of a decision that people will make as consumers on whether or not which console they want to buy moving forward. Even if you can, I mean, listen, I'm multi-platform, right? I mean, sometimes I would game on the PC very limitedly, but I would also game on the Xbox and the PlayStation, and obviously now the Switch too. So I don't think we have to choose between those things. That argument is really irrelevant, irrelevant, I should say, as to which one of these consoles you should choose. I don't think we have to choose from all of them. That's not the argument. The argument really is about these anti-consumer practices, which we all should be aligned with. We shouldn't be, you know, attacking each other because we think one, or we prefer one console over the other. That's really not the point. And regardless of what your preference is for either one of these consoles, I think that we can all agree that if one console comes with a physical disc and one doesn't, then a substantial amount of players, especially legacy players, Generation X players who have always wanted a physical copy, I think they're going to gravitate towards that, you know, regardless of the exclusivity. I mean, it's think about it this way. Okay, what good is it to have exclusive titles if you're never going to actually own them? I mean, that's just insane to me. It's like, oh yeah, you can buy an exclusive car somewhere, but if you never get to actually purchase the vehicle, you're just renting it. What is the point? I don't understand that logic, but again, sometimes when you're talking to people on the interwebs, logic goes out of it. Trust me, I had a whole discussion right now about the Odyssey. One of my degrees is in history, and somebody was arguing about I can't even say this right just because it sounds so stupid. Somebody was arguing, and he might be the dipshit of the week on the next video. But he was arguing about how DEI is ruining things, and how, you know, Christopher Nolan was only thinking about winning an Oscar. Mind you, he's already an award-winning Oscar, so why would, you know, whatever. as if the director is not thinking that he would want his film to be praised or at some point maybe win an Oscar. I mean, that's such a stupid, absurd argument. And even if it was, why is that a bad thing, you know? Obviously, what Christopher Nolan made in The Odyssey did very well because the movie's making a metric fuck ton of money. So he's doing something right. The other thing too, that, you know, you're with the whole DEI, they're like, oh, they're not being true to the story. It's a goddamn myth, okay? It was written thousands of years ago. It's a poem written thousands of years ago by Homer, okay? I mean, it's ridiculous. It really is. I mean, they're arguing about DEI in the myths of Greco-Roman, mythology. It's stupid. It's absurd, okay? But it is what it is. So this person might be the dipshit of the week. I didn't even want to continue that conversation because it was just so stupid. I don't know. Dumb people shouldn't do history. I'll tell you what. Please don't argue with people who have advanced degrees in history. All right? I have several advanced degrees in history, so please don't try to school professors. All right? Like, seriously. But that's on another level. The point that I'm trying to make is some of these arguments, just because you happen to be a fan or you think you have to be on one side of the argument or not, are so absurd, and they're really kind of missing the whole point. Okay, I think this person was trying to argue about because I was like, hey, whatever, whoops, I fell off the cliff here, sorry, that was a stupid thing. I was trying to knock that grunt off, and I actually fell off with him. So the argument that he was trying to make is, my point was that because I wasn't taking so critically how they're changing certain aspects of the myth, that's a very colonizing or a colonist behavior. I'm like, did you actually write that? I mean, I don't know. People don't think before they write that. I sometimes think that people use big words that they don't really understand because it makes it sound like they're smarter than they actually are, not realizing how ridiculous this whole aspect of it is. But whatever, unfortunately, people think that social media is a substitute for actually going to university and years of study and research, and I'm sorry, that's just not the way that shit works. Anyways, in other news, there was an article that I read earlier this morning about how Xbox is going to be ramping up the download speeds. I think this was a bit of an issue for years that many Xbox players had been very frustrated about, and this kind of ties into the whole, I guess, ensuring that if this is going to go to, completely online and physical media and whatnot, that it takes forever to download something into your Xbox for the download speed. So I guess that's kind of good news, although I'm a little bit worried about what that means for Xbox, if they're ramping all of this up in order for them to continue this non-physical media campaign, and they're going to join in with PlayStation 5 or Sony. I hope that doesn't happen, and I hope that's not why they're making the move. By the way, these sons of bitches are among the worst and yet best to fight things ever. I mean, they're these fucking behemoths. They're like almost impossible to take down unless you've got a really strong weapon. Now, one of the things that I learned the hard way about Halo 5 Guardians is that I run out of ammo a lot. And this game is actually harder than any other Halo game that I've ever played. I don't know why. Could be psychosomatic, I'm not exactly sure, or I could just be rusty, but I got my ass kicked so many times in this game. And here's the thing, I was thinking about this the other day. I think that the reason that they have this squad-based mechanic where if you do get the shit kicked out of you, here I go with the turrets again, I never freaking learn my lesson. I always think that it's going to have a different outcome. And look at what happened here, I just got the shit kicked out of me. But this is one of the things that I wanted to talk about. So I think that one of the mechanics in this game, because it is, or the difficulty is a little bit more increased, and I'm just playing this shit on normal. I can't even imagine what, Slayer is like or something like that. But because of the fact that it is a little bit more difficult, that you have this squad-based mechanic where they can revive you, unless all your squad mates go down, and then, well, you're basically fucked. I mean, at that point, it's just game over for you. Fortunately, the Xbox, in its brilliance, it doesn't throw you all the way back to the last save point, and it kind of does it in real time, which is, trust me, Xbox, I love you for doing that. So these guys are very difficult, and I had a very hard time trying to take these guys down. Add to that the fact that ammo seems to be a lot scarcer. I don't remember Halo having this problem with scarce ammo. I mean, you pick it up and you can pick weapons off of the Dead Covenant or enemies that you take down. But nevertheless, you run out of ammo really quickly, and I find myself having to retreat to go to the ammo boxes to try to like basically re-up in order to take down these enemies. They're not easy, and the AI in this game is actually really freaking impressive. Like I said, that really took forever, and I was using the equivalent of like a pea shooter in this Halo universe in order to take that thing down. But nevertheless, I was able to overcome, although it was tedious and it took a long time, and you know, it's just the nature of Halo. Again, these poor fucking grunts, like, I feel bad for them. I always knock the crap out of them, but you know, I mean, whatever, it is what it is. I always mention that. Me trying to justify this this thing that I'm doing to these grunts. This is one of the cool aspects, and I honestly, maybe you guys can tell me, I don't know if this was part of the original game, but these long elevator rides and stuff like that, I don't know if they were basically loading screens at the time. Going into the next section, it could be. It doesn't seem that way, though. It seems like they're very seamless. Which, if they did this in the original game, and then, well, this is the original game, essentially, but maybe it's being upscaled somehow in the Xbox. I don't see how that would be possible, but I wonder if these were loading or loading transition screens in the original game. If they were, they're done brilliantly, and they're hidden very well, because it does seem that it's very seamless. This armor, I mean, look at how beautiful that is. Really freaking cool. I just love the Spartan armors. It's really one of the things that I think when I was younger, like in 2001, when I first got back to video games, because I had lost it for a little while. You know, you're in college. I was dating a lot. I got out of video games for a little bit, and then I eventually came back to it. One of the things that I saw that really drew my attention to not only the Xbox but Halo in general was the armor set from Master Chief. I was like, wow, what is that? And I think, and it wasn't GameStop yet, or maybe it was about to convert into GameStop, but it was EB Games. It was the electronic boutique. I was here at the Dadeland Mall here in Miami, and I actually went, and they had a demonstration of the Xbox. You remember that big ass thing, and it had that neon green. It's just looking really cool, very alien, you know, not unlike something we had ever seen before. And of course, they had this big ass poster of Master Chief, and I was like, wow, what is that? This was a very interesting spot. Before I continue on with that, this was very interesting, like the aftermath of whatever went down here. You know, very Tarantino-esque. Everybody just gotten their ass kicked right here. I just wanted to make sure that these soldiers were down. I know that they had already been down, but you know, and I don't like to kick them while they're down, but whatever. They were still kind of moving, and if something is still breathing, it's still dangerous. So, you know, just gotta make sure that these sons of bitches are dead, right? But yeah, I remember, and there was a long line there, and I had asked somebody, hey, like, what's the deal with that? What is Halo? And they kind of explained to me what it was, and I was so intrigued by it. I was like, wow, that actually sounds really cool. At the time, the Xbox was a little bit out of my price range. Like I said, I think I was a freshman, or not a freshman. Yeah, I think I was just starting my third year. Didn't have a lot of money because I was, you know, my third year. I think I was a sophomore in my university. So I didn't really have a whole lot of money, but one of my cousins, who, like, the dude was making like a shit ton of money, he did say, hey, yeah, look, I got this Xbox if you want to come in. This is where I found out about the landlines, the LAN parties and stuff like that. Holy shit. Okay, so this thing really freaked me out when all these platforms were moving and stuff like that. There is some parkour. This shit. You know when you're on a ride? This happens to me at the youth fair. You know when you're on a ride and all of a sudden you take a dip and your nuts go into your throat? This is a guy thing. This only happens to guys. I don't know if this happens to girls, but that's what I got when I almost slipped off of that kind of platform. The design here is very beautiful, by the way. And this I'm sorry, hit the mic. This part of the game actually reminded me of BioShock. And when you go into the bathysphere for the first time and you go into Rapture, I got those vibes, and I was coming down here, especially the way the water flows. I'm very excited because there's eventually going to be a new BioShock game. But do you guys remember way back when on the 360 when you first played BioShock. I did a review on that on the BioShock collection. When you first go into the BioShock and you go into the bathysphere, and basically you go into Rapture for the first time, and these like flooded areas and that Art Deco neon style architecture. This is definitely what it reminded me of, and I got a flashback, and I thought, man, I can't wait to play a new version of BioShock, which is going to be really awesome. But yeah, just going back to the original point that I was trying to make about how I gravitated towards Halo. And believe it or not, I hadn't actually played the campaign because when I went to my cousin's house, he was only doing, I guess it was the online component at the time, but not truly online, not online like we know it today. It was more like the LAN parties, right? So we were, just somebody had brought another Xbox, or he was in another room or something like that, and we were doing PvP, but it was like, somebody was in the next room. So landlines for you youngsters, if you don't remember that, it was a very special time. Wasn't completely online, so to speak, but it was still connected to your router somehow. Jesus, I can't even remember, it was such a long time ago. But it was a lot of fun. Things were split screen. A lot of times, like what my cousin did is he had this big, it's one of the few people that I knew that had an HD TV at the time. He had this big ass plasma screen TV, and it split the screen perfectly and equally, and it was just so much fun, and I think that that's one of those nostalgic things about Halo, and one of the things that gravitated most people towards it, which was really cool. This is where the Prometheans come in, I think. The Promethean tech is really cool. I like fighting these guys, but they're very, very fucking difficult. And mostly because what I already explained is that they have these like glowing spots that you have to hit. This was a bit of a pain in the ass, and I hate those fucking dogs. I'm not an animal person by nature. I don't really like dogs. And I really hate dogs in video games. I think they're such a fucking pain in the ass. I can't stand them. I used to be a dog person, no longer. If you are a dog person, more power to you. And I'm sure you have a great relationship with your dog. It's just not for me. Not an animal person, per se. But yeah, the Prometheans are really cool. I mentioned this, I think, in episode 2 or part 2 of this. I don't know why people really didn't like the Prometheans. I think they were an excellent ancient race. Definitely a departure. One of the things, and I think I mentioned this in Halo Guardians, is when they talk about the Forerunner race and their interactions with the Flood, and the reason that they made these massive Halo rings was fascinating to me. And I'll mention this again. If you haven't seen that, please watch it, because the lore is very extensive, and it's really tragic, right? It's almost like a Greek tragedy. Talking about the Odyssey, right? It really is like a Greek tragedy, but it's so fascinating how the Covenant took these races. I mean, it gets biblical at some point. I mean, it's Halo, and these Covenant aliens think that the ring is an ancient religious artifact, not realizing that the goddamn thing is a weapon of mass destruction to kill the Flood, right? And if I spoiled that for you, well, I'm very sorry, but it's been about 25 years, guys, so I think the statute of limitations on being able to spoil something has come and gone if you felt that was a spoiler. I apologize, but come on, guys, like, really. You should have played all this shit already, which is kind of hypocritical on my part, since it took me 11 years to play this game, but nevertheless, I did play the original, so, I get kind of a pass. Now, this is a really cool aspect of this, and one of the things that I think, if I understand correctly, about this new Combat Evolved is that you can actually switch seamlessly between first-person perspective and third-person perspective, which seems kind of counterintuitive for what a Halo game is, but it's nice that you get the option. I think that's pretty cool. I know that Halo purists are going to be like, oh no, that's not a real Halo game, and it's just appealing to modern contrivances of video games and stuff like that. And yeah, I get that. There's a strong argument for that, but nevertheless, I mean, how is having more of an option a bad thing, right? I don't think that's a bad thing. To me, in my opinion, that wouldn't be a bad thing. I mean, having more options to do anything. The whole fucking point that I'm trying to make about these practices of going completely digital. Those things can coexist. Just like the option to go from third person to first person can coexist. one of the, I think it was, again, another game I haven't played yet, but Resident Evil, I think it's Resident Evil 7 Village, is that what it is? Or Resident Evil 8 Village, I think that's what it is, I don't know, whatever. Resident Evil the Village, the one with the werewolves and stuff like that. So that one does it, and it does it seamlessly, and it's actually very fascinating. I actually like playing those games in third person. By the way, I do have to finish the new Resident Evil game. It's on my Switch. You know what's so funny is that I got that game on the Switch because I had to justify the expense of buying the Switch 2, right? So I'm like, alright, let me try this out. And I have to say, I'm very impressed with it. Is it going to run as smoothly as it does on Xbox and PlayStation? Probably not. When I'm playing it, I do notice dips in frame rate, but it, you know, it still runs really good for something that you can take on the go, which is a lot more convenient, especially if you're a dad and, you know, you're in higher education, you're a professor, you're teaching classes and stuff like that. It definitely works in a pinch. But that game does that seamlessly, and it's really freaking cool, right? To be able to switch from third and first person perspectives. Again, the more choices that we have in video games, the better it will be. I don't understand why this is such a controversy. I mean, it's like, whatever. Why are people so, like, dogmatic about shit? I don't know what that is. You know what I mean? We don't have to be. If you don't like third person perspective, don't play it in third person. If you like first person only play it in first person. What you don't want to do is you don't want to take away that option from other people who might have it, that might not share your philosophy about gaming. You know, I mean, you can, this is, you know, you can equate this to anything, you know, because it is just is what it is. I don't know why people seem to have their worldview blown up because something is a little bit different than what they expected. It's always really weird. This part of the game, and, you know, I'm not sure what's going to happen here, but it seemed to me like Sarah Palmer and Halsey are in a bit of a pickle right now, because these guys get transported into this other, I don't know, planet. I'm not exactly sure where the hell they went. But there is a point in this game where I'm like, but so they're just not gonna tell us what happened here. It just kind of cuts off. It's a little bit of a like a mini cliffhanger within the game. I don't know how to quite describe it. The point is that most of the Spartan team get onto this thing, whatever the hell, the Guardian or whatever the hell the thing was called. We leave the Arbiter behind, and he's obviously celebratory because the Spartan unit was able to get on this Guardian thing, but I don't know what happens to Sarah Palmer and to Halsey. So, I mean, or Dr. Halsey. Come on, she has, you know, she's a doctor. I gotta respect her rank, right? And from a higher education standpoint, I gotta respect that. So it is a funny thing. Now, this level was really, really weird, and it kind of played into like my phobia. I don't really have a fear of heights, but I do have a fear of being on the side of a goddamn skyscraper, which is what one of the Spartans described. So they actually had to use like some kind of magnetic boot thing, or some kind of magnetism that they had in their boots, in order to basically scale down the side of what is essentially a skyscraper. So here's what's happening. They have to, or I guess part of this is trying to get closer and closer enough to the ground so that you can execute a halo jump, I guess, and survive that jump. I don't know. I fucked this up a couple of times because the perspective was really off. So if you think about it, I think I'm moving forward, but in actuality, I'm moving down with gravity. I didn't realize that. So whenever you jump, you make these exaggerated jumps, and that's where I fucked up. You see what I mean? I didn't realize that the little what are they called, laser bridges and stuff like that, that you can actually slip through them because this thing is essentially falling apart or it's moving. So you have to stay on these physical platforms. You can't get on the laser whatever, otherwise you're gonna fall through and fall like I just did. Now this is what I'm talking about. You make a jump and it's super exaggerated. You jump and you leap like, I don't know, 100 yards in the air. And as you can see, these platforms are moving. So this is happening in real time, which really fucked me up. So on top of like trying not to fall off this superstructure that I'm on, it's constantly moving, and you have enemies. Worst of all, not only normal enemies, but they're these fucking dogs that basically kind of grab onto you and really mess with your footing. So the best strategy to use here is just to kind of stay in the middle, because the platforms are moving, and again, you have to be careful, because if you jump too far, it's an uncontrolled jump, right? So it's not like you can move in any direction while you're jumping, you're just leaping forward. So eventually, I got to the point where I'm like, look, and they actually give you this advice of one of your Spartan units. It's like, yeah, just stay in the middle. So that's what I did, and that's how I was able to get through this level. But nevertheless, it wasn't easy. It was kind of fucking hard, and it gets to a point where it starts moving in terms like it's like crescendoing, and you're moving a lot quicker and quicker, getting to this like event horizon, and you have to. I mean, eventually you can't like even control your speed. As you can see. Thankfully, I made it to the cutscene, and eventually got to the point where I can execute this Halo jump, which I'm just like, you know, kind of platforming all the way down to the ground, so to speak. Which, you know, whatever. I thought that this was going to take a hell of a lot more tries. I hit the retro rockets, and I was able to land on terra firma. So thank God that I was able to get through that. I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to mention it again. One of the things that I love is that this rifle is so freaking cool looking. Also, I mentioned this in the previous episode, is look at how beautiful this looks. Again, it's 11 years old. I already make the parable or the kind of comparison between Metroid Prime 4 and how this looks even better than that. And that game came out earlier this year, and it just looks amazing in terms of the overall life that you can see, the fauna and whatnot. This is really cool, kind of like a throwback to the original game. I think this is 343 Guilty Spark, which eventually became the name of the studio that took over Halo. But it's really funny that this is in the game. I didn't really think that I was ever going to see this again, but it's really cool. And this version of 343, I don't know what the hell the name of it was. I can't remember right now, but it's actually not 343. She's really funny. She has this kind of like quirky personality, very sarcastic and very obvious, right, about some of her observations. Now, we do get, I believe this is called the Scorpion, and as you guys know, the Warthog, the controls for the Warthog are freaking ancient. Even for me, like back then when I played this game, when I finally got to play the campaign, the Warthog controls were a freaking nightmare. And here's the thing, apparently in this new Combat Evolved, you can use the right and left trigger to accelerate and decelerate with the Warthog, although they're advising you not to do that because it is a little bit weird. But nevertheless, like using the joystick, the thumbstick, whatever the hell it is that you use, the vehicles in Halo have never been the most intuitive, and I really suck at the vehicles. It is what it is, guys. I try to do my best here, but please understand, especially if people get frustrated by me, using the vehicles in Halo has never been a thing, especially when you're using some of these bigger vehicles. They are a pain in the ass. They're very powerful. So I actually took a lot of damage here, but just trying to maneuver this goddamn thing was a bit of a crucible for me. So just, you know, bear in mind that, yes, I haven't played a Halo game in 11 years, but even if, even if I didn't stop playing this, I would still really suck at trying to maneuver this thing because I know my limitations, okay? I don't have any delusions here. I've never been able to effectively move with these vehicles, and it is what it is. So I always take a lot of damage, and you know, who cares? I remember that segment. I think it was when we landed in the original, and I think it was ODST, and you go into New Mombasa, or was that in the original Halo game? I can't remember. But there is this segment where you're crossing this wide-ass bridge in, I think it's the original Halo, or maybe ODST. Like I said, my memory is a little bit messed up. But yeah, I had a hell of a time trying to pass that segment because I couldn't get across the bridge, mostly because I couldn't figure out the controls of the tank, and to this day I still haven't. It's awkward. It's not very intuitive. For those of you who have been playing Halo a hell of a lot more than I have, God bless you. This is the outcome. I got the tank blew up, so I had to do this again. But God bless you. You guys must be geniuses to be able to drive this damn tank. I just got out of it at some point because I figured I can't be combat effective in that thing. So I might as well just get the hell out of it and then just hook this on foot, and hopefully I'll be able to take these enemies, which are not easy. Of course, we have the Promethean Knight, which is a pain in the ass. And I don't know what the classification of this thing is. I think this is also a Knight, but he is a tough son of a bitch to take down, mostly because he's kind of like a bullet sponge, and the shields really play a lot into it. Again, you got to hit that sweet glowing spot. I am going to say this, that I'm very guilty of leaving my squad mates behind because I'm like, look, there's no way with the weapons that I have right now that I can effectively take on these guys. So I was kind of trying to rush through this level, especially with those particle beams, those particle turret beams, or whatever the hell they are shooting at us. They're bullet sponges, and unless you have a heavy, you're never going to take them down. And if, I mean, eventually you will, but not after you get your ass kicked, right? So whatever. Now, I did try to get into this other vehicle thinking that maybe it was going to be a little bit easier than the actual Scorpion itself. Is that what it's called? Am I misclassifying that tank? I don't know. But this didn't go well either, because this one is very loopy. Now, this is the one that was like the bane of my existence in part 2, where it was lobbing like a trebuchet, those particle kind of like, I don't know, beams or whatever the hell they were. Which, I mean, it's an instant kill, so it'll kill you immediately. But again, it was ineffective and it wasn't working for me, so I decided maybe I can jump out of this thing. That didn't work, so I just got the hell back in. And starting to see if I was effective with this thing, but whatever works for you. It's like I said, I've never been a fan of the vehicle, and this Banshee was a bitch. I mean, I got lucky with that shot, and I took it out in one shot, because that thing is devastating. If you hit something with it, it's gonna work. It's gonna knock their ass out. Now, this mission was actually kind of a pain in the ass, and I had to do it several times. But of course, through the power of editing, I was able to take all of the times that I fucked up in this mission, and I was able to present you with the final outcome. So, you know, I wasn't going to put you through this whole thing because it would exceed the hour limitation that I have. But nevertheless, just so you know, there's a whole lot of things going on here. You have Grunts, you have Covenant, you have Prometheans. I think they're Grunts and Covenant soldiers here. Yeah, I think so. Or maybe they're just exclusively Prometheans. You have these particle beam turrets that are just raining down shit on you. And it is a freaking miasma. I mean, it's a freaking gauntlet. Now, here's the thing, at the end of trying to get through all that bullshit, of course, we have this motherfreaker again. This Cortana's new boyfriend that is just constantly in a bad mood. And you just mentioned Cortana to this guy and he flips the shit. Now, the stupid thing about this, or I guess the thing that made it even more challenging, was the fact that there's actually 2 of these sons of bitches. And that big-ass sword that he has, that is a one-shot kill. So what made this fight so frustrating is that his weapons are uber strong. I've got this stupid ass little pistol because I can't find any other weapons. And when I tried, again, doing the whole turret thing, I got the shit kicked out of me. So, because you basically become one giant bullseye. So this was a very tough fight, and no matter what I did to try to combat this, it made it exponentially more difficult. And even when I tried to get some heavies, they still didn't work as effectively because the guy moves around a lot. Add to the fact that he makes a doppelganger of himself, so he actually copies himself, and you have to fight 2 of these motherfreakers, which was a massive pain in the ass. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how much of a pain in the ass this freaking fight was. But eventually, you know, as you'll see, I'll show you how I took this son of a bitch down. So eventually we get through that initial fight, right? And that was one hell of a gauntlet, and I really ran out of ammo. Basically, my squad mates were kind of tired, or I noticed that they weren't as active with me in terms of my squad-based movements, but whatever. I don't even know if that's a thing in this game. I don't know if they get tired or whatever, or relent or something like that, but they weren't listening to my commands. Whatever, it's kind of irrelevant, right? They were getting, it seemed to me like when I got into this fight with this, what he's called the Warden, and like I said, you have to fight 2 of these fuckers. So what ends up happening is that it seemed to me like every time my squad mates got killed, they got hit, they got one-shotted. And of course he's surrounded by all these fucking techno dogs and the knight, the Promethean knight, so it made this shit even more difficult. Add to the fact that you had these turrets, these laser turrets that were shooting like these bababa beams, which were a pain in the ass, and then you have a very significant challenge. Now, here's the good thing though. You do have ammo caches all over the place if you can reach them in time. And also, you have some of the stronger Promethean weapons. Like I said, I got the shit kicked out of me right here. Look at that. So I'm already down, and the Spartans are trying, or my team is trying to basically revive me. But I'm getting hit with the beam. They're getting one-shotted by the Warden. This was a fucking, just almost impossible fight. Then you have the knights that are just lobbing shit over you at the time. So it's sensory overload. I was constantly on the run on this, and I was constantly moving or displacing to positions in order to get more ammo, because you do run out quite significantly. Again, these beams are nothing but bullet sponges. They were a real pain in the ass. And one of the things that I learned about these things is that you can't actually take them down. Here again, I got hit. You see what I mean? And I didn't even see that fucking knight. It just kind of creeped and peeped on me because they have the power for teleportation. But what I was explaining about the actual turrets themselves, the beam turrets. So those ones, the only way that you can take them out is once they've actually opened their eye to shoot the beam. Otherwise, they're basically impregnable. What? Holy shit! That scared the crap out of me. Even reliving that. They have the power as Prometheans to kind of like teleport, right? So you might think they're in one position, and then they teleport, and then bam, they're like right behind you, or literally right in front of you, taking up the whole screen. That happened to me a couple of times, so be very careful of that. I recommend using the dodge mechanic that you have to kind of like get out of the way, and maybe try to strafe them a little bit. But fortunately, you do have some heavies here, so that they will work very effectively. The problem is that you got to kill one of these wardens first, keep reviving your squad mates, and use some modicum of tactic. Now what I did was I had them aggroing. Well, what do you want to do first is take out the turrets, because without taking out those turrets, trying to take out the knights and the warden is nearly impossible. But what I did notice is that once I got rid of all that stuff, I had my squad mates aggro him, and then I would take that heavy, move away from him, and just unload on his ass. And this was really the only tactic that you can use. But first of all, you've got to take out those secondary soldiers first. Unless you have everything taken out that can like possibly help him, especially his little Haleys that give him like invincibility, you're never going to win this fight. You're going to keep playing it over and over again. So I had to adapt my tactics several times. Finally, though, I was able to take this son of a bitch down, and it was so satisfying. Like I said, if you played Halo, if you played Elden Ring, you can overcome anything, especially Millennia Blade of Mikola. So fuck that bitch, and fuck this goddamn warden. It's funny because the level of difficulty in Halo 5 Guardians is all over the place. I mean, it could seem very simple when you're just bombarded with a bunch of grunts for most of the level, and then you get these Prometheans and some of the other enemies, which I'm not going to spoil, and you're getting your ass handed to you. So it is very inconsistent, but at the same time, it's challenging, and it always keeps you on your toes. And you definitely have to have some situational awareness here, because, you know, if not, you're going to get fucked. Anyways, guys, that's it for me for this segment. So this has been Halo 5 Guardians Part 3. I'm glad that you guys stuck around and really took the time to watch this whole video. I think it was running around 42 minutes. And that's that I edited a lot of stuff out of here, especially how many times that I died in this level. But yeah, this is Halo 5 Guardians. We're going to continue on, finally get a little bit of a modicum of Master Chief and what's going on with the overall story. Obviously, he's on this quest to find Cortana. Anyways, this has been another episode of Route Desert Plays. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.
Where'd she take us?
Cortana. What is this? Cortana, answer me.